My own daughter left me at a nursing home on my birthday. A week later, I won the lottery, changed my number and my name. Before I share my full story, let me know where you're watching from and make sure to like the video to support me. My name is Rose. I am 72 years old. For most of my life, I have put my family first. I have always been there for my daughter, Emily. After her father passed away, our bond grew even stronger. I thought we understood each other well. I thought she appreciated all I did for her. But something happened on my birthday that changed everything. I woke up that morning feeling excited. Birthdays were special in our family. We usually celebrated with a small party, some cake, and laughter. I imagined Emily would come over and bring her kids. I pictured the house filled with their voices. But the day did not go as I expected. Emily showed up at my door with a smile on her face. She looked a bit nervous, but I didn't think much of it. She said she had a surprise for me. I was curious and eager to see what it was. She asked me to get ready and said we were going for a drive. I trusted her, so I got dressed and followed along. We drove for a while. I started to notice we were heading out of town. I asked Emily where we were going, but she just smiled and said it was a surprise. I felt a bit uneasy, but I kept quiet. I assumed she had planned something nice for my birthday. After some time, we stopped in front of a building. It looked like a nursing home. I felt a chill run down my spine. Emily parked the car and turned to me. Her smile was gone, and she looked serious. She said it was time for me to live somewhere safer, where I could get the care I needed. I was shocked. I didn't understand. I thought I was just visiting. But she insisted it was for my safety. We got out of the car, and Emily helped me with my bags. I still hoped this was a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. As we walked inside, my heart sank. I felt betrayed and abandoned. This wasn't the birthday surprise I expected. Inside, a nurse greeted us. She seemed kind, but my mind was spinning. Emily filled out some forms and chatted with the nurse. I stood there, feeling invisible. I wanted to say something, to protest, to ask why. But my words didn't come out. Emily hugged me and said she would visit soon. She promised I would be comfortable here. Her words felt hollow, and I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. As she left, I watched her walk away, tears welling up in my eyes. I felt like my world had shifted, and I was left standing alone. The staff showed me to my room. It was small and plain, not like home at all. I sat on the bed, trying to process everything. I kept thinking of the life I left behind, the memories of my family, and the home I loved. I felt like I was in a bad dream, hoping to wake up and find everything was okay. Days passed, and I tried to adjust. The routine was simple: meals, activities, and rest. The staff was polite, but I felt like just another resident, not Rose with a full life and a loving family. I missed my home, my independence, and most of all, I missed feeling valued. I watched other residents and tried to imagine their stories. Some seemed content, others lost like me. I wondered if they too had been left here with promises of safety and care. I felt a connection with them, even in our shared silence. Emily did visit, as she promised. She brought the kids, and we spent some time together. But things felt different. There was a distance between us that hadn't been there before. I tried to hide my feelings, not wanting to upset the kids. They were happy to see me, and I didn't want to spoil their visit. After they left, I returned to my room, feeling the weight of my new reality. I realized I needed to find a way to cope, to find some peace within this new life. I couldn't change what happened, but I could try to understand it. I spent many nights thinking about my life, my choices, and my future. I knew I had to find a way to move forward, even if it felt impossible at times. I needed to learn how to live for myself, not just for the family I had always put first. Adjusting to life at the nursing home was not easy. Each day felt like a repeat of the last. I would wake up, have breakfast, and then join the others in the common room. There were activities planned, but I felt like a stranger among them. Everyone seemed to know each other, and I was just the new face trying to find my place. The staff was nice, especially a nurse named Jack. He had a friendly smile and always took the time to listen. Sometimes, I would tell him stories about my past, when my husband was alive and Emily was just a child. Jack listened patiently, nodding and smiling at the right moments. It felt good to talk to someone who seemed to care. One afternoon, they organized a bingo game. I joined in, mostly because I had nothing else to do. The room was filled with chatter and laughter. I sat quietly, marking my card as the numbers were called. It was a simple game, but it reminded me of the small joys I used to share with my family. After the game, I felt a bit more at ease. I watched the others chat and realized that maybe this place didn't have to feel so lonely. Maybe I could find some comfort here if I tried. I decided to take a walk outside, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind. As I walked around, I thought about my late husband. We used to buy lottery tickets together, a little tradition we had. We never won anything big, but it was fun to dream. I missed those moments, the excitement and hope that came with each ticket. I thought about buying a ticket again, just for old time's sake. The next time Emily visited, I asked her to get me a lottery ticket. She seemed surprised but agreed. When she brought it to me, I tucked it away in my drawer. I didn't expect to win, but holding that ticket brought back memories of happier times. It was a small piece of my past that I could hold on to. Life at the nursing home continued. I tried to join in more activities, hoping to feel less invisible. I played cards with some of the other residents and shared stories over meals. Slowly, I started to feel a bit more connected. I realized that while I missed my old life, I could still find moments of joy here. Jack noticed my change in attitude. He asked if I was settling in better, and I nodded. I told him about the lottery ticket and how it reminded me of my husband. He smiled and said sometimes small things can bring the greatest comfort. His words stayed with me. One evening, I sat in my room, looking at the ticket. I remembered the dreams my husband and I shared, the plans we made for our future. Winning the lottery was always one of those dreams, a fantasy we laughed about. But now, it felt like a way to keep his memory alive. I knew the odds were slim, but it was nice to imagine what could be. As days passed, I found myself feeling more at peace. The nursing home was not where I expected to be, but I was learning to accept it. I discovered that life was still full of small wonders, even here. I just had to look for them. The lottery ticket stayed in my drawer, a reminder of the dreams I once had. I knew it was unlikely to win, but that didn't matter. It was a symbol of hope, a connection to my past. It reminded me that life goes on, even when it takes unexpected turns. I didn't know what the future held, but I was starting to see that it might not be as bleak as I feared. I was finding new friends, new stories, and new reasons to smile. Life was different, but it was still mine to live. And that was enough for now. One morning, something happened that I never expected. I was having breakfast in the dining hall when the staff turned on the television. They always did that to catch the morning news. I wasn't paying much attention until I heard the lottery numbers being announced. My heart skipped a beat. I remembered the ticket in my drawer. After breakfast, I went back to my room and took out the ticket. I sat down with it, feeling a mix of excitement and disbelief. I checked the numbers carefully, one by one. Each number matched. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had won the lottery. The realization hit me like a wave. I was in shock. I needed to tell someone, but I didn't want to make a fuss. I decided to find Jack. He had always been kind to me, and I trusted him. I found him in the hallway and asked if we could talk in private. He looked curious but agreed. Once we were alone, I showed him the ticket. He looked at it, then back at me, his eyes wide with surprise. He double-checked the numbers and nodded, confirming what I already knew. I had really won. Jack smiled and congratulated me. He understood the importance of keeping this news quiet. We sat together, and I started to think about what this meant for my life. I hadn't planned for something like this. It was both thrilling and overwhelming. I thought about Emily and what she might say. Part of me wanted to call her immediately, but another part felt hesitant. Jack helped me stay calm. He suggested that we contact a lawyer to understand my options. I agreed. I needed to be careful and make sure everything was handled properly. Jack promised to help me with the process, and I was grateful for his support. As the news settled in, I felt a sense of empowerment. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my life. I had the means to make choices that were truly mine. It was a strange feeling, but a good one. I started to think about how I wanted to use this money. I knew I didn't need much. The thought of luxury didn't appeal to me. What I wanted was freedom. The freedom to make my own decisions without feeling like a burden. I wanted to live a life that reflected who I was now, not who I used to be. With Jack's help, I met with a lawyer. We discussed how to manage the winnings and what steps to take next. The lawyer was understanding and gave me good advice. We talked about the possibility of changing my identity for a fresh start. It was a big decision, but I liked the idea of starting over. I thought about Emily and the rest of my family. I knew they would have questions when they found out. But I needed to figure things out for myself first. This was my chance to live life on my terms, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. Over the next few days, I felt a growing sense of peace. I hadn't felt this way in years. I started to plan for a future that was free from the expectations that had weighed me down. I wanted to explore new interests and embrace the things that brought me joy. Winning the lottery changed everything, but it also reminded me of what truly mattered. It wasn't the money itself, but the chance to reclaim my life. I wanted to be more than just a resident in a nursing home. I wanted to be Rose, a woman with dreams and possibilities. I knew there were challenges ahead, but I was ready to face them. I had support from Jack and my lawyer, and I felt confident in my decisions. I was no longer just a background figure in someone else's story. I was writing my own, and it felt right. As I looked out the window, watching the world move on, I felt a sense of hope. My life was taking a new direction, and I was at the helm. This was my journey, and I was eager to see where it would lead. With the lawyer's guidance, I began the process of securing my lottery winnings. It was important to keep things private. I didn't want anyone to know until I was ready. Jack was by my side, helping me with each step. His support made everything feel more manageable. The lawyer suggested I consider changing my identity. It was a way to protect myself and start fresh. At first, the idea scared me. Changing my name felt like letting go of who I was. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was a chance to redefine myself. I could be whoever I wanted to be, without the past holding me back. I decided to do it. I would change my name and get a new phone number. It was a symbolic step, a way to mark the beginning of a new chapter. I chose a name that felt right to me, one that represented hope and strength. It was a big decision, but it felt empowering. As the paperwork moved forward, I started to think about what I wanted in life. I had been so focused on others for so long that I hadn't stopped to consider my own needs. Now, I had the freedom to explore my interests and passions. It was a liberating feeling. I began to make a list of things I wanted to try. Painting, gardening, and maybe even traveling. I had always loved the idea of seeing new places, but I never had the chance. Now, it was possible. I could visit the places I dreamed of and create new memories. Meanwhile, Emily was trying to reach me. She called several times, leaving messages that I didn't answer. I knew she was worried, but I needed this time for myself. I couldn't go back to the way things were. Not yet. I needed to find my own path first. The nursing home became more than just a place to stay. It was my starting point, a place where I could rediscover who I was. I spent time with other residents, hearing their stories and sharing mine. There was a sense of camaraderie that I hadn't expected. It helped me feel less alone. Jack encouraged me to follow my interests. He suggested I join a painting class offered at the home. At first, I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I was any good at painting. But Jack reminded me that it wasn't about skill. It was about expression and finding joy in the process. So, I signed up. The class became a highlight of my week. I enjoyed the feel of the brush in my hand and the colors coming to life on the canvas. It was soothing, almost meditative. Each stroke was a step towards finding myself again. As I settled into my new identity, I felt a growing sense of peace. I no longer felt the need to justify my choices to anyone. I was living life for me, and that was enough. I was learning to embrace the silence, to enjoy my own company without feeling lonely. Emily's letters began to arrive at the nursing home. They were filled with apologies and explanations. She spoke of her worries and fears, of wanting to keep me safe. I read each one carefully, understanding her perspective but also recognizing my own need for space. I chose not to respond immediately. I needed time to process everything and decide what I wanted to say. This was a chance to be honest with myself and with Emily. I wanted to approach it with clarity, not emotion. The decision to change my identity and start anew was life-changing. It was a reminder that I was in control of my story. I was no longer just a mother or a grandmother. I was a woman with dreams and goals, ready to embrace the future. This journey of self-discovery was just beginning, and I was excited to see where it would lead. I felt stronger and more confident than I had in years. I was ready to live life on my terms, to make choices that were right for me. This new chapter was mine, and I was determined to make the most of it. Settling into my new identity brought a sense of calm that I hadn't felt in years. I started each day with a clear mind, focused on what truly mattered to me. The pressure to meet others' expectations faded away. I found joy in simple things. Painting, reading, and taking walks became my new routine. The nursing home had a garden, and I spent a lot of time there. Tending to the plants was peaceful. It reminded me of the garden I once had at home. I loved watching the flowers bloom. Each new bud felt like a promise of what was possible. It was a place where I could reflect and find solace in the quiet. Emily's attempts to reach me continued. She left messages and sent letters, but I wasn't ready to respond. Her words were full of regret, but I needed time. Time to understand my feelings and what I wanted from our relationship. I knew she meant well, but I had to focus on myself first. Jack was a constant source of support. He encouraged me to try new things and explore my interests. He was more than a nurse, he had become a friend. We often talked about life, dreams, and the future. His presence reminded me that it was okay to lean on others sometimes. One day, Jack brought me a small canvas and paints. He suggested I try painting something from memory. I was hesitant, but I agreed. As I painted, I felt a sense of freedom. It was a picture of a beach, a place I had visited with my husband long ago. The memories flooded back, bringing warmth and comfort. Painting became a form of therapy. It allowed me to express thoughts and emotions that were hard to put into words. Each piece told a story, a part of my journey. It was a way to reconnect with myself, to remember who I was and who I wanted to be. My days were filled with discovery. I started to read more, picking up books on topics I had always been curious about. History, art, travel. The world felt bigger and more inviting. I realized there was so much I still wanted to learn. Letters from Emily continued to arrive. She wrote about the family, shared stories about her children, and expressed her hopes for reconciliation. I read each one carefully, appreciating her effort. But I needed to find my own peace before I could extend it to others. I learned the power of silence. It wasn't emptiness, it was space for reflection. It allowed me to connect with my thoughts and feelings without distraction. I found strength in the quiet, a place where I could heal and grow. As the weeks passed, I felt more settled in my new life. I no longer felt the need to rush or fill my days with busy work. Each moment was an opportunity to be present and enjoy the simple pleasures life offered. The nursing home began to feel like more than just a place to live. It was a community. I made friends with other residents, people with their own stories and experiences. We shared meals, laughter, and sometimes tears. It was comforting to know I wasn't alone. Emily's letters often mentioned her desire to talk face to face. She wanted to explain, to make things right. I understood her need, but I wasn't ready. I needed to be sure of my feelings before I could have that conversation. I focused on building a life that reflected my true self. I wanted to embrace my independence and find happiness on my own terms. It was a journey, one that was both challenging and rewarding. Each day was a step forward, a chance to live authentically. Through it all, I learned the importance of self-love. It was the foundation for everything else. Loving myself meant accepting my past, forgiving my mistakes, and believing in my future. It was a journey worth taking, and I was grateful for every lesson along the way. I decided it was time to meet Emily. I needed closure, not just for her, but for myself. I wanted to talk, to explain, and to understand. I arranged for us to meet at a cafe we used to visit. It was familiar, a place filled with memories that felt safe. The day of the meeting, I felt a mix of emotions. I was nervous but also ready. Ready to face the past and see if we could find a way forward. I dressed in something nice, something that made me feel confident. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who had come a long way. When I arrived at the cafe, Emily was already there. She looked different, older, and a bit weary. When she saw me, her eyes widened. I could see the surprise in her face. I had changed since the last time we met. We sat down, and there was a moment of silence. I could see she was nervous, unsure of how to start. I took a deep breath and spoke first. I told her how I felt when she left me at the nursing home, how it hurt and how lost I felt. I explained why I needed time apart, to find myself and to heal. Emily listened, tears in her eyes. She didn't interrupt, just nodded as I talked. When I finished, she took a deep breath and began to speak. She told me about her fears, how she worried about my safety, and how she thought she was doing the right thing. She admitted she was wrong, that she hadn't considered my feelings enough. Her words were sincere, and I could see the regret in her eyes. She spoke about her struggles, how hard it was to manage everything after her father passed away. She said she acted out of fear, not realizing the impact it would have on me. It wasn't easy to hear, but it was necessary. We talked about the past, about the misunderstandings and the things left unsaid. It was emotional, but it felt good to finally address everything. I could feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. I realized that while things couldn't go back to the way they were, we could find a new way forward. Emily apologized, and I could tell she meant it. I nodded, accepting her apology, but also explaining that I needed things to be different. I told her about my new life, my new identity, and how I was finding happiness on my own terms. She listened, understanding that this was important for me. We agreed to take things slow, to rebuild our relationship with honesty and respect. I told her I loved her, but I needed to love myself too. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and said she wanted to support me in this new chapter of my life. As we parted, I felt lighter. We hadn't solved everything, but we had taken the first step. It was a beginning, a chance for both of us to grow. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to try. Back at the nursing home, I reflected on our conversation. It felt good to have spoken my truth, to have been heard. I realized that forgiveness was a gift, not just for Emily, but for myself. It allowed me to let go of the past and focus on the future. I felt a sense of peace. I had confronted my past, and in doing so, I had freed myself from it. I was ready to embrace the life I was building, to continue exploring and discovering who I was. It was a journey worth taking, and I was grateful for the chance to start anew. Emily and I had a long road ahead, but I was hopeful. Hopeful that we could find a way to be in each other's lives without losing ourselves. It was a balance we needed to find, and I believed we could do it. together, but also as individuals on our own paths. After meeting Emily, I returned to my new life with a sense of calm. I hadn't fully reconciled with her, but our conversation opened a door. It was a start, and that was enough for now. I was ready to focus on my own path, one that was filled with promise and self-discovery. The nursing home had become a place of comfort. I was surrounded by people who supported me, like Jack and my new friends. We shared stories and laughter. These connections reminded me that family comes in many forms. It wasn't always about blood. It was about the bonds we choose to nurture. I spent more time painting, letting my creativity flow. Each canvas was an expression of my journey, a piece of my heart. Painting was no longer just a hobby. It was a way to connect with myself, to explore emotions that words couldn't capture. The colors and shapes told stories that were uniquely mine. Gardening also became a favorite pastime. Watching the plants grow brought me joy. It was a reminder that life continues, no matter the circumstances. Each bloom was a symbol of resilience and hope. I felt connected to the earth, to the cycle of growth and renewal. Emily and I exchanged letters. They were filled with updates and small moments from her life. She wrote about the kids and their adventures. I shared stories of my days, the things I was learning and exploring. We were rebuilding our relationship, one letter at a time. It was slow, but it felt right. I realized that I had found independence. I was making choices for myself, and it was empowering. I no longer felt the need to seek approval or validation. I was living life on my own terms. It was a lesson in self-love, something I had long neglected. One afternoon, I received a letter from Emily that touched my heart. She wrote about a memory from her childhood, a day we spent at the beach. It was a simple day, but it was filled with laughter and love. She thanked me for those moments, for always being there for her. Her words were genuine, and they meant a lot. I decided to visit Emily and the kids. I wanted to see them, to be part of their lives again. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew it was time. Time to embrace the present and the possibilities it held. The visit was heartwarming. The kids were excited to see me, and I felt their love. Emily and I shared a quiet understanding, a sense of peace. We didn't dwell on the past. We focused on the here and now, on the chance to create new memories. Returning to the nursing home, I felt fulfilled. I had reconnected with my family, but I hadn't lost myself in the process. It was a balance I had worked hard to achieve, and I was proud of it. Jack noticed the change in me. He said I seemed happier, more at ease. I smiled, knowing he was right. I had come a long way, and I was grateful for every step of the journey. I continued to explore my interests, to learn and grow. The world was full of opportunities, and I was eager to embrace them. I knew there would be challenges, but I felt ready to face them head-on. As I reflected on my journey, I realized the importance of owning my story. It was mine to tell, to shape, and to live. I encouraged others to find their voice, to live authentically. We all deserve to be heard, to be seen, and to be loved for who we are. The life I was building was one of joy, freedom, and self-acceptance. I was no longer defined by my past. I was creating a future that was bright and full of hope. It was a new beginning, and I was excited to see where it would lead.